You know, in any war, we usually think about the soldiers on the front lines, right? They're the obvious targets. But what if the most important target isn't a soldier at all? What if it's the bugler, the one person whose signals tell the army when to charge, when to hold, and where to go? This is a story about exactly that, how silencing just one voice managed to prevent an entire war.
So this isn't your typical story of swords and shields. This is about a conflict that was being fueled by something else entirely, what we'd probably call information warfare today. It's a fascinating look at how you stop a war before it even gets started, by going straight to the source of the incitement.
The early Muslim community in Medina was facing this exact problem. There were a few key figures stirring up trouble, people like Osman bin Marwan and Abu Ifik al-Yahude. But for this explainer, we're going to zero in on the most dangerous of these buglers, a man whose words were literally weapons, threatening to tear the whole city apart.
So who was this guy? His name was Ka'ab ibn Al-Ashraf. And believe me, he wasn't just some random critic. The sources describe him as a full-blown leader of sedition. From his huge stone fortress right there in Medina, he used his money, his high status, and his incredible skill with poetry to run what was essentially a non-stop propaganda campaign against the Muslims.
And this wasn't just talk. He had actually signed a peace treaty, but he completely ignored it. He was using his poetry to slander Muslim women, he was traveling to other regions trying to build an army to invade, and he was doing everything in his power to create chaos. His actions were a genuine existential threat to the community.
So with this threat growing every day, the responsibility to do something about it fell to one man. And as you're about to see, the sheer weight of that duty was almost crushing.
That companion's name was Muhammad ibn Maslamah. When he gave his word to the Prophet that he would take care of the problem Ka'ab represented, he took that promise incredibly seriously. This wasn't just another task for him. It was a sacred, personal commitment.
And the weight of that promise, wow, it showed in a really powerful way. For this many days,
For 3 straight days, he was so completely consumed by the mission, so focused on how to fulfill his promise, that he literally stopped eating and drinking. I mean, that just shows you the deep sense of responsibility he felt. It wasn't about the act itself, but the immense burden of getting it exactly right.
Now, seeing his companion in such distress, the Prophet stepped in. And this is where the story pivots, because he shared one of the most powerful lessons you'll ever hear about faith, about action, and about trusting the bigger plan.
Okay, so this is the core of it all. The Prophet told him, "It is only upon you to make an effort." Think about that for a second. He wasn't telling him you have to succeed no matter what. He was saying your responsibility is to try, to plan, to strive, to give it everything you've got. The final result, well, that wasn't in his hands.
And almost immediately, this teaching was backed up by divine revelation. This verse came as a direct comfort, a reminder that patience and faith are what matter, and that the end result is always good for those who are trying to do the right thing. It's this amazing 1-2 punch of human effort and divine reassurance.
So once he was freed from that incredible burden of having to guarantee the outcome, Muhammad ibn Maslamah and his team could just focus on the effort. And what they came up with, well, it was a masterclass in strategy. This was faith and brilliant planning working hand in hand. Okay, let's break this down because it's pure genius. Step 1, they used one of Ka'ab's own foster relatives to build trust. Smart. Step 2, they came up with a believable story. They pretended they were unhappy and needed to borrow money, offering their weapons as collateral. Step 3, this story was the perfect lure to get Ka'ab to leave his fortress at night. And finally, Step 4, the masterstroke, complementing his perfume to get physically close without raising any suspicion.
And here's why all that detail was so important. The whole thing had to be secret. If this had been a public confrontation, it could have easily sparked a civil war in Medina. The goal wasn't to start a war, it was to surgically remove the one person who was trying to start one, and by doing so, save the city's fragile peace. It's a classic strategy, a precise, targeted action to prevent massive, widespread damage.
So, the big question is, what happened? After all this planning, this secrecy, this high-stakes mission, did it actually work? Did it stop the larger conflict they were so worried about? The change was like night and day. I mean, look at this. Before, you had open incitement, tribes being manipulated, active mobilization for war. After, a powerful message was sent to anyone else thinking of causing trouble. The public agitation just stopped. The other tribes saw what happened and actually reaffirmed their peace treaties. That constant chaos was replaced by a peace that, yeah, was probably a little tense, but it was stable. The bugler had been silenced.
And that really brings us to the final, sobering question. You can't put a number on it, but it really makes you think, doesn't it? This calculated surgical operation wasn't really about one man. It was about all the countless lives that would have been lost if his campaign of hate had actually succeeded in starting that war.
And so the whole story comes full circle, right back to that core lesson. A lesson in courage, sure, but also in strategy, and in the deep wisdom of focusing on your effort while trusting in the outcome. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the bravest action is the one that prevents a war, and that true peace is often won through patience, strategy, and faith.